Hi, so I saw this design of this shift dress with buttons and Ankara and crepe mixture. So I decided to recreate it. So that's what I'm using now. So I'm gonna ahead to do the buttons. I did three. Then the Ankara is less than half yard of fabric and I will not finish it. Then the crepe, I use one trouser for the crepe fabric. But please, if you want to have pocket, you have to use more than one trouser. I use one trouser, but there's no pocket in mine. So the first thing I want to do, I created my border line. So my measurement will start from there. Meanwhile, I folded it into four. So I'm going to impute the shoulder measurement. I'm going to measure out the arm length that I want. For this one, I'm using 6, so I imputed it. So that's 8 plus 3, that's 14. I'm going to measure that same 14 down so that I can get my sleeve opening. So I'm just going to connect the points together. I hope you can see. I don't want the shock to be too visible. So after doing that now, you're going to come down by 1.5. That will give you your shoulder slope 1.5 or 1 inch, but I use 1.5 so it will relax well. So you're just going to connect it to the midpoint like so. If you use 1.5, it will relax well. So after that, now from that 1.5, you're now going to measure your sleeve opening, whatever it is you want to use. For this one, I'm using 9.5. I'll use half inch to sew it, so it will be I'll be left with 9.5. That's 18 if you measure it fully. So after that, I'm going to impute my neckline. My neck width is 4 inches. So for the down, I'm going to use 4.5 for the neck depth for the front part. Since I folded the fabric into 4, I'm also going to use for the neck depth for the back is 2 inches. So I'm going to mark it on both sides. So 4.5 and 2 inches for the depth. So from there, I will come down by 1 inch from that opening. That will act as where my bust line will be. Do you understand? So that 1 inch will act as where my bust line will be. I'm going to measure my waistline. I'm using the chalk faintly so that it will not stain the clothes. And I'm also going to measure my hip line. So now you're going to impute your waist measurement divided by 4. So this is 40, that's 10 plus extra 2.5 inches. Hip measurement divided by 4, then extra 2.5 inches for A, since this is a shift dress. So your bust measurement divided by 4 plus extra 2.5 inches. So you're just going to connect everything together. I hope you can see. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe. We have a lot of beautiful tutorials coming up. So I'm going to use the same measurement I use for the hip line down because it's not a pencil gown, it's a shift dress. So it's supposed to be a bit short, and the measurement for your hip will be what you will use for the down part. So I'm just going to measure it as my hip divided by 4 plus extra 2.5 inches. So at this point now, you can measure the full length of your fabric, like the full length of your gown. So I'm going to trim out the back neckline first. So I'm using the back neckline. So when you are cutting the shoulder, make sure you add half an inch. I didn't know it was not showing, but make sure you add half an inch. I assume that you've been watching my tutorial, that you will know that. So from there now, I'm going to mark the full length of my gown. I'm using 40 inches. By the time I turn it, it will be 39 inches. I want it to be above my knee. That's when it's fine now. If it's too long, it will be looking somehow. So you just impute whatever it is you want, and that is it. You are just going to mark it. So I will just go ahead and cut it out, and our gown is already taking shape. So you are going to remove the back, since you've already trimmed out the neckline for the back. So you just remove it and you now rearrange the front pattern. So we'll cut the front neckline. When you are cutting, don't make the mistake of cutting the front neckline and the back neckline together. You will disfigure your gown. So after we are done now, so the next thing I want to do is cut facing for this. I was telling you earlier that this one trouser I'm using, I'm just managing it. So I'm going to use lining to cut facing for the front. But before I will do that, I'm going to cut out the square design. So the length of the square, I will make it 8 inches. That's for the length. I don't want it to be too wide. So 8 inches is okay. So this is on fold. Do you understand? The Ankara is on fold. So how the fold, I'm going to make it 3.5. So by the time we open it, it will be 7 inches, right? So it will be 8 by 3.5 on fold. So that's how you're going to do yours. You can be creative with yours. You can do your own as circle. Just a very lovely design. So that's what we are going to do now. So after cutting out one, I'll use this particular one to cut out squares for the other. I'm just going to trim it so that it will align very well, and I'll use this particular pattern and cut out two more so that there will be three. So after I've done that now, I will now go ahead and form that opening. So I'm going to come down by 4 inches. Do you understand? So I'm coming down by 4 inches. I'll mark it. Then if you notice that the opening has a little tiny V, so you are going to go in by 0.25. Please don't make it more than that, if not it will be too wide. So you are now going to trim it to give you this very tiny, this slim fitted V. That's the look we are going for. So you are just going to trim it out and we are good to go. So the next thing I want to do now is to cut facing for the front and the back. So now it's time for us to cut the facing. So like I said earlier, the fabric is not enough, so I'm using lining, but I'm going to iron interfacing on it for it to be thick. So I'm just going to fold the lining into two and trace out the neckline. Please make sure you trace out that tiny V you did in front. And I'm going to remove the front part of the fabric. Since you can use normal fabric if your fabric is enough, but I'm just using lining because mine is not enough. So I'm just going to come down from the edge of that V, the opening, by 3 inches. Then for the shoulder part, I'm going to go out by 2 inches and just trim it round. Just watch what I'm doing, you will get it. I know my chalk is not visible because I don't want the thing to stain, but I hope you understand. If you watch a lot of my tutorials, you know how to cut facing, I assume. So I'll just cut it out like that. So for the back facing, there's fabric for it, so we're just going to use the remaining fabric, fold it into two, fold the remaining fabric into two, and just trace out the back neckline just the way you did for the front. And however, for this one, all round it will be 2 inches so that it will be uniform. So you're just going to mark 2 inches round and trim it out, and your facing is already complete. So we'll now move on to the next stage of this beautiful shift dress. So we'll just trim it out now and we're good to go. So now what I want to do now is to iron interfacing, like I told you now, on the lining part. I will also iron interfacing on the Ankara, fold it by half an inch on all the sides of the Ankara, and I'll weave the interfacing, then I'll come and show you. So I'm gonna head to iron interfacing. I've also gonna head to weave it. Can you see the way I folded it, the Ankara this thing, and ironed it? So now I also ironed our main fabric. So it's now time for us to make the dress. So I ironed the main fabric. I make sure I got the midpoint. It's very important. It will help you to place the pattern very well. So I'm going to open it to the right side and place the facing right side facing each other. So you're just going to sew it by half an inch. So after sewing it, you do the same for the back. However, on the back side, when you are done, you are going to top stitch on the facing part. I assume you know that, but you are just going to top stitch on the facing part. So I want to go and add facing to both the front and the back now. I will come and show you how it looks like when I'm done. So I've gone ahead to add facing, and you can see that I trimmed the edge so that it will be easy for me when I want to turn it, especially for the front because of all those pointy. So make sure you trim it. So I will just turn it and show you how it's looking. On the wrong side, this is how it's looking. You need your ironing for this facing. Make sure you iron it flat when you are done. It will make your work very, very neat. But I'm just showing you how it will look like. Make sure you trim it out very well so it will be well relaxed. Do you understand? So after doing that now, and you've gone ahead to iron it, you are now going to look at the way it's looking. Don't iron it close here, to just iron it for it to lay flat first. So you are going to bring the right side of your front and the right side of your back facing each other. So you are going to place the neck. That I want the shoulder to be neat. So you are just going to place it. Make sure that the starting point of each facing matches each other. Can you see it? So you now hold it by half an inch, hold it on the other side. I will do mine. I'll come and show you. So this is how it's looking. So in order for your work to be neat, open up the shoulder allowance, that allowance on the shoulder, open it up and iron it. Let it lay flat before you will now close up the shoulder, the neck. I hope you understand. So you iron it. So when you are done ironing it, you can now close up the neck. You can use hemming gum for this, or you can just sew it straight. I wanted to use hemming gum before, but I decided to change my mind that I will just iron it and short it. Then on the sleeve opening, you fold it in by 1 inch. You can put hemming gum for it to give you this beauty. There's a way it's beautiful. You can put hemming gum and you cannot, depends, but just make sure you iron it first. Can you see it? And sew it by 1 inch. So I'll go and do that now, and I'll come and show you how it's looking. So I'm gonna need to do that and see the way it's looking beautiful. Time for us to add our buttons. So this is it. So now when you are sewing the button, make sure that you are calculating it so that the button will not lay on top of each other. They should align very well and it should be well spaced. Can you see how relaxed my button is? Yours should look like this. So you're now going to bring the squares you've already ironed earlier and arrange it the way you want. Then you pin it. Make sure you work with pins. Just pin it to the fabric. Make sure it's laying flat and it's neat. It's not rumpled. The fabric is flat itself when you are laying it. So after laying it, I'm trying to get whatever it is I want. And if you notice, I'm also measuring it so that each distance will be equal to the next one. So you can do that too. So you pin it very well. Then you go to your machine and sew on top of the pins. So you sew it round. Make sure that you change your thread to the thread of the patchwork. So after doing that now, you are just going to close up the sleeve. If you are putting pocket, this is the time to put pocket. I'm not, so I'm just going to close up the both sides and turn it. And this is how it's looking. So thank you for watching this tutorial. See you next time. Bye.